The sky over the Coalition capital world of Cypherion burned violet and black. The Dominion armada had punched through the final defense grid. Cities fell silent under orbital fire. In the Grand Assembly Dome, every delegate stared at the same hollow, the Dominion's Warmind fleet, 1,000 planet killers, blotting out the sun. The vote was unanimous: surrender. Except one delegate, a scarred old Keth admiral, stood and spoke the forbidden name. "Call them," gasped. Terror. The chamber lights flickered as if the name itself hurt. "Call the humans." Far away, on a dusty frontier moon no one bothered to map, Captain Ryan Reaper Callahan was finishing a simple courier run: deliver medical supplies to a plague outpost and get paid in beer money. His battered Corvette Last Call sat on cracked tarmac while he loaded crates under a blood-red sunset. The emergency beacon hit every human channel at once. Single word, ancient code. Jericho. Ryan froze, crate half-lifted. Every human in the galaxy, trucker, farmer, bartender, child, heard it the same instant. Work stopped. Engines fired. Weapons that hadn't been touched in decades came out of lockers. Ryan dropped the crate, cracked his knuckles, and walked back to his ship. The war wasn't over. It was just getting started. And the species everyone feared had finally been asked to dance. Scene 2. The moral trigger, 550 words. Ryan's last call dropped out of hyperspace above Cypherion just as the Dominion began planetary bombardment. The sky was a lattice of violet death beams carving continents into glowing scars. Coalition evacuation ships were being shot down like clay pigeons. He was vectoring for the capital spaceport when his sensors screamed. A single Dominion hunter-killer had locked onto a civilian shuttle limping away from the burning city. The shuttle's transponder read, "Refugee Medical Transport, 400 souls." The hunter-killer fired. Ryan rolled the last call between them, taking the plasma lance on his reinforced belly plating. Sparks showered the cockpit. "Wrong day to be a bully," he growled. The Dominion pilot laughed over open channel, arrogant, melodic, cruel. "Primitive. Your kind was banned from war for a reason." Ryan's answer was a full spread of old Terran missiles, dumb, ancient, unstoppable. The hunter-killer became a brief, pretty sun. The refugee shuttle tumbled, engines dead, spiraling toward re-entry burnup. Ryan matched velocity, extended mag clamps, and reeled it in against a storm of Dominion fire. He cycled the airlock. Inside were 400 terrified aliens of every species, and one adult female Veari medic, silver-skinned, emerald-eyed, cradling a dying child while the rest of the crew had already abandoned ship in escape pods. They'd left her behind with the infants because one medic is acceptable losses. Ryan knelt, took the child gently, slapped a human nanopatch on its chest. The bleeding stopped. The child breathed. The Veari stared at him, tears of liquid mercury on her cheeks. "You came back." "Name's Ryan Callahan," he said, voice soft despite the war outside. "Humans don't do acceptable losses." Dominion boarding pods slammed into the shuttle hull. Ryan stood, drawing his grandfather's .45 and an energy cutlass older than the Coalition. "Lock the kids in the medbay. You're with me." She rose, picking up a fallen plasma scalpel that doubled as a weapon. "I am Dr. Elora Voss. Pleasure's mine, document. Let's go introduce these bastards to customer service, Earth-style." He kicked the airlock and stepped into hell with a grin. 400 lives on the line. One human who decided the math was wrong. The war had just found its first spark. The last call's cargo bay became a killing floor. Dominion shock troops in mirror-black armor poured through the breached hull, plasma lances spitting violet death. Ryan moved like a storm given flesh, .45 barking precise thunder, cutlass carving limbs that would never hold a weapon again. Every time a trooper raised a rifle toward the medbay door, Ryan was already there, bullet or blade first. Elora fought beside him, scalpel flashing, Veari grace turning surgical precision into art. Between them they held the corridor for 30 blood-soaked seconds. But there were too many. A Dominion captain, 8 feet of gene-forged perfection, leveled a lance at the children's door. "Primitive, your species was banned from war for a reason. Surrender." Ryan stepped in front of Elora, chest heaving, blood, his and theirs, dripping from his knuckles. "Yeah," he said, voice calm as a graveyard. We were banned because we don't stop when you ring the bell. He thumbed a small black device on his belt. Every human ship within 100 light-years, freighters, miners, colony tugs, even a damn cruise liner, received the same silent signal. Jericho, Phase 2. Across Cypherian sky, 1,000 warp signatures bloomed. Not military vessels. Just human ships, armed with whatever their owners had lying around. Mining lasers, rail coils meant for asteroids, torpedoes built from scrap and spite. They dove straight into the Dominion fleet like wolves into a sheep pen. On the last call, Ryan smiled the smile of a man who had just called in the cavalry. "Meet the reason," he told the Dominion captain. The corvette's lights flickered as every human pilot locked weapons on the boarding party's mothership. The Dominion captain's perfect face cracked, first confusion, then terror. Elora grabbed Ryan's arm, emerald eyes wide. "You brought civilians into a war zone?" "No, Doc," Ryan said, reloading one-handed. "We brought humans." The cargo bay lights turned red as the last call's point defense guns spun up. Outside, the sky filled with the most beautiful chaos the galaxy had ever seen. Freighters ramming battleships, or haulers spitting coil gun rounds the size of cars, a luxury liner unloading a broadside of retrofitted mining charges that turned a Dominion cruiser into glittering confetti. Inside, Ryan and Elora stood back-to-back over the medbay door, holding the line until help arrived. The Dominion troops hesitated, just for a heartbeat. That heartbeat was all humanity needed. The war wasn't lost anymore. It had just found its soundtrack. The last Dominion trooper fell in a smoking heap. Ryan's left arm hung useless, plasma burn eating through the sleeve. Elora's silver blood painted the deck in constellations. The last call limped through Cypherian's burning sky, human ships swarming around her like angry hornets. In the medbay, the children slept under human sedatives. Elora worked on Ryan with trembling hands, but Veari physiology was collapsing. Her emerald eyes dimmed to dull jade. "Ryan, I'm fading. Veari don't survive plasma shock without the binding." He caught her as she swayed. "Then bind me, document. I'm not losing you after all this." "It's forbidden," she whispered. "It links life forces forever. You would feel my death as yours." Ryan met her gaze, steady as Earth gravity. "Good. Then you'll feel me refusing to let you die." She searched his face, scarred, bloody, beautiful, and nodded once. Elora pressed her palms to his temples. Silver light poured from her skin into his. Memories detonated. He saw the Dominion's true plan, not conquest, but extinction of every species with dangerous empathy genes. Veari medics were first on the list, healers who could bond and share pain were threats. Cypherian was the opening act. Earth was the finale. She saw a lifetime of humans being told they were too violent, too emotional, too dangerous to be allowed weapons. The day the galaxy banned humanity from war and thought that would be the end of it. Light flared white, then settled into a steady pulse between their hearts. Ryan's burns closed. Elora's eyes blazed emerald again, now threaded with human arterial red. A new glyph glowed on his chest, her name in Veari script. Their breathing synced perfectly. Elora stared at their joined hands, tears of liquid mercury falling upward in low G. "You just bound yourself to a war criminal's worst enemy," she breathed. Ryan grinned through the pain. "Doc, I just bound myself to the best reason I've ever had to win a war." The last call shuddered as human ships formed a protective sphere around her. On every channel, the same calm message from 1,000 human captains. "Reapers got family on board. Anyone wants them, they come through us." Elora leaned her forehead against his. "They'll hunt us to the edge of the galaxy." "Let them," Ryan said, thumb brushing her cheek. "We've got a date with destiny, and I never stand up a girl." The corvette's engines roared back to life, stronger, fueled by two hearts beating as one. The war wasn't lost. It had just found its heartbeat. The binding turned the last call into something the Dominion had no name for. Ryan felt every human ship in the system, freighters, miners, colony haulers, like extra heartbeats in his chest. Elora felt their fear, their fury, their unbreakable refusal to lose family. Together they became a living battle net. "Show me," Ryan said. Elora closed her eyes. Silver light poured from her into the ship's systems. Every view screen lit with perfect targeting data, Dominion weak points, shield harmonics, even the exact moment each enemy captain's courage cracked. Ryan smiled the slow, terrible smile of a species that had just been handed the keys. All ships, this is Reaper. New rules, no prisoners, no mercy, no retreat. They wanted a war? We're giving them a family reunion. He pushed the throttles wide. The last call dove straight into the Dominion flagship Eternal Edict, a continent-sized warmind bristling with planet-killer lances. Human ships followed like a storm of iron and spite. Dominion Admiral Cale Vorn broadcast galaxy-wide. Primitives cannot. Ryan cut him off, voice calm as death. Wrong. We're not primitives. We're parents. He fired. The last call's ancient railguns, upgraded by 3 generations of angry mechanics, punched through the Edict's shields like they were tissue. Human miners added their cutting lasers. A cruise liner unloaded a torpedo spread built from or haulers. The flagship spine cracked open like a glowing egg. Inside the Edict's core, Cale Vorn watched his perfect fleet die in minutes. Through the binding, Elora saw the truth. The Dominion had been breeding empathy out of every species for centuries, creating living weapons that felt nothing. Veari medics were scheduled for total extinction because they could teach love. Ryan felt her rage echo his own. Time to remind them what love feels like when it's weaponized. Together they sang, not with voices, but with action. Every human ship locked onto a Dominion vessel and fired until nothing remained but cooling debris. Cale Vorn's final transmission was pure terror. "What are you?" Ryan answered for all humanity, voice carrying across every channel. "We're the species you banned from war because we never learned how to lose one when family's on the line." He fired the killing shot. The Eternal Edict became the biggest firework in Cypherian's history. In the silence that followed, 400 rescued children woke to the sound of human voices singing an old Earth lullaby across open channels. The war wasn't lost. It had just found its soul. The last call punched through the Eternal Edict's dying hull like a bullet through glass. Ryan flew the corvette straight into the flagship's cathedral core, a vast chamber where Dominion warminds floated in neural fluid, their cold thoughts powering the fleet. Cale Vorn waited at the center, 8 meters of gene-forged perfection, for plasma-scythe arms unfolding like black wings. "Primitive," he sneered, voice layered with 1,000 stolen minds. "You bring your pet healer to my throne?" Elora stepped forward, silver skin blazing with human red threads. "I bring your end," she answered. Vorn lunged. Ryan met him head-on, .45 barking, cutlass singing. Every blow Ryan landed, Elora amplified through the binding, turning pain into resonance feedback that shattered Vorn's armor from within. The warmind chamber shook as human ships outside finished off the last Dominion cruisers. Vorn staggered, scythe slowing. "You bonded with prey," he gurgled. Ryan drove the cutlass through Vorn's central thorax. "Prey's a choice," he growled. "She chose us. We chose her. You chose extinction." Elora placed her palm on the core. One pure note. Every warmind in the chamber woke to the truth of what they'd become. Stolen empathy flooded back. The Dominion's perfect soldiers turned on their master, neural fluid boiling as centuries of suppressed love rebelled. Vorn's dying scream was the sound of an empire realizing it had taught its victims how to feel again. Ryan and Elora sprinted for the last call as the edict began to fold in on itself. They escaped in a bloom of white fire, children safe in the cargo bay, human fleet forming a protective sphere. Behind them, the Dominion armada went dark across the sector, command net severed, soldiers weeping as empathy returned like a tidal wave. On the last call's bridge, Elora leaned into Ryan, exhausted but radiant. "They'll come for us," she whispered. "The Dominion has 100 more fleets." Ryan kissed her forehead, tasting blood and starlight. "Let them," he said. "We've got 400 reasons to win now. And 8 billion more waiting at home." The human fleet turned toward open space, engines singing a new song, not of war, but of family. The war wasn't lost. It had just found its reason. 1 year later, the Dominion's final reserve fleet, the Obsidian Choir, 1,000 planet killers hidden beyond the galactic rim, came for vengeance. They found humanity waiting. Not an armada of warships, But every human ship that could fly. Miners, haulers, colony arcs, even a floating city with railguns welded to the hull. 8 billion people had turned their homes into weapons. At the center flew the last call, now painted with the names of 400 rescued children in silver script. Admiral Cale Vorn's clone successor, Vorn Prime, broadcast from the choir's flagship Silence Absolute. Primitives. Your empathy is weakness. Surrender the Veari witch, and we spare your worlds. Ryan stood on the bridge, Ellora's hand in his, their newborn daughter asleep in a cradle grown from the ship's own hull, silver skin, human eyes, heartbeat synced to both parents. He opened the all-fleet channel. This is Reaper. You want her? Come take her. Then he smiled the smile that had ended empires. Family meetings in 5. The battle lasted 11 minutes. Human ships fought like wolves protecting a den. No formation, no fear, just raw, beautiful violence. When a planet killer targeted a refugee ark, a dozen or haulers rammed it at full burn. When Silence Absolute fired its main lance, a human cruise liner intercepted the beam with its own hull and kept coming. Vorn Prime watched his perfect fleet die in fire and song. Ryan and Ellora boarded the flagship through the chaos. In the core chamber, Vorn Prime waited, larger, colder, final. You cannot win, he intoned. You feel. Ryan stepped forward. That's the point. Ellora sang, one pure note of love, grief, and unbreakable family. The binding flared galaxy-wide. Every rescued child, every human who had ever lost someone, every Veari who had ever healed instead of harmed, lent their voice. The note hit Vorn Prime like a supernova of empathy. His armor cracked. His stolen minds rebelled. He fell to his knees, weeping mercury tears as centuries of suppressed feeling returned. Ryan offered no blade. Live with it, he said quietly. Live with what you tried to kill. The Silence Absolute became a garden ship, its weapons melted into cradles. The obsidian choir surrendered in waves, crews begging to feel again. The war ended not in silence, but in the sound of children laughing across open channels. Humanity had been called because everyone feared them. They won because everyone finally understood why. 5 years after the obsidian choir fell, Cypherian skies were blue again. The rebuilt capital rose in rings of crystal and steel, human and alien hands working side by side. The old coalition flag was gone. In its place flew a simple banner, a circle of hands, human, Veari, Keth, THRWS, and 100 more, all clasped around a single cradle. At the heart of the new city stood the Memorial Garden. In its center, a statue of Ryan Callahan and Ellora Voss, arms around each other, their daughter perched on Ryan's shoulder, laughing at the stars. Every year on Victory Day, the garden filled with children, some silver-skinned, some freckled, some scaled, all calling every adult aunt or uncle. They flew kites shaped like the last call. They sang the lullaby that had ended a war. Ryan, gray at the temples now, still wearing the same patched jacket, stood on a hill overlooking the festival. Ellora leaned against him, wings folded around their second child, a boy with his father's crooked grin and her healer's hands. Their firstborn ran past, chasing a Veari boy with a human girl riding his shoulders. Look, Daddy. We're the fleet. Ryan's throat tightened. He lifted the boy into his arms. Yeah, kiddo, he whispered. You are. Ellora rested her head on his shoulder, the binding still humming warm and steady between them. They still tell the story, she said softly. How the war was lost, until we called the species everyone feared. Ryan kissed her temple. Let them tell it forever. Just make sure they get the ending right. She smiled, emerald eyes bright with starlight and tears. That we didn't win with weapons. We won with family. Below, the children's voices rose in the lullaby that had once shattered an empire. Every adult, human veterans with old scars, former Dominion soldiers learning to feel again, refugees who had once fled in terror, joined in. The galaxy had feared humans because they fought too hard, loved too fiercely, refused to let anyone be left behind. Now the galaxy needed them for exactly the same reasons. Ryan looked at the sky where new ships, freighters turned exploration vessels, war mines turned garden arcs, rose to carry families, not armies, to the stars. The war was over. The story had just begun. And somewhere out there, whenever a child cried alone, Whenever a world stood on the edge of silence, someone would whisper the name everyone once feared. And smile. Because humanity was coming. And they never left anyone behind again.